This has been a big week in our house. There was a birthday, a boy turning double digits, and then I'm also really close to having a baby. At the time of filming this, I'm either gonna go into labor on my own or be induced within the next 5 days. And there was still a lot I felt like I really needed to get done to get ready for the baby to come. So, one thing that I really wanted to do, and I was waiting for a sunny day to do it, and for our toddler to be successfully transitioned to her big girl bed, which just happened a couple days ago, is I wanted to take the play yard outside and get it hosed down. So I did that. I scrubbed it with some detergent and hosed it down. And here I'm showing you my rose bush, which has been infested with aphids. So there's like these tiny, tiny, tiny green bugs. And so a great way to knock them off is just to hit them with a hose. If you notice little holes in your leaves, you also want to flip your rose leaves over and check for these little tiny green worms because those are often the culprit. And then another aspect of getting ready is staying on top of laundry. I feel like with, 7 of us at home and a baby on the way, there's always plenty of laundry. And though my oldest daughter does her own, she's 18, I don't have to worry about that. And my boys, actually, they do their own laundry too, for the most part. Although I feel like I'm always collecting dirty socks from around the house. I haven't quite succeeded in convincing them to always put their discarded clothes straight into the washing machine or into the hamper, but they're pretty good at it. But it's surprising how much laundry that we make as a family, even just with like rags and towels, and my husband and I, and our toddler. So I'm trying to do at least one load of laundry every day, but it's looking like right now a couple loads of laundry. And then I really needed to get the shower curtain liner and the decorative kind of external shower curtain. I wanted to get those both in the wash. Now that it's springtime, the boys especially, and our little girl, we're outside a lot and we're getting dirty. There's soccer happening, there's track happening, there's football happening, and then just playing outside with friends. So I find that I'll send them upstairs like, hey, go wash your feet up in the bath or take a shower. But they're so grubby that wherever they grab the shower curtain, it's like basically develops a brown dirt smudge. So every few weeks, it's a good idea to just get those shower curtains down. The external shower curtain, I don't bleach, I just wash. And then the liner I do use with bleach. And then I really like this little rug for in here. I wanted to find one that was cotton and that would be easy to wash. And so this little rug that has the stripes is from a company called Annie Selke, and the line is called Dash and Albert. It's supposed to be like an ivory and light blue stripe. I'm not sure if it's completely light blue. I feel like it reads a little bit more gray, but I like it because it's machine washable and it certainly needs to be. So after I got the shower curtains washing and got the rug downstairs in line for the washing machine, I saw that the dishes needed to be addressed. And as much as we do have a system for dishes, the system only works when it's used, and I feel like it's easy for us to all get kind of lax. So the idea behind our dishes is just to not have tons and tons of dishes out in the regular rotation. Like my goal is to just have, one bowl, one glass, one coffee mug, one fork, one spoon, one knife, and one plate per person in our family. And then of course we have more. I just have those up in another cabinet. So like whenever company's coming over, I get down all the extras and we're completely covered. But in our daily rotation, it helps to have less inventory to manage. And the idea is that the boys each put away one section of the dishwasher when they wake up in the morning, which doesn't always happen. And I feel like that's where the system kind of fails, is if some of them sleep in or they don't empty the dishwasher right away, then sometimes things accumulate. But the idea is that you're supposed to hand wash whatever you use until dinner time, so that it's ready to be used again throughout the day. And then at dinner time, if you're not going to eat again, then you can put your stuff in the dishwasher, and then it gets a really nice deep clean in the dishwasher. But I don't know, somehow it just doesn't always fully work, but definitely reducing inventory has helped it to feel manageable. Like, I'll see a few dishes and I'll be like, okay, I can take care of that in about 5 minutes. And then next is I was going through all the bins of baby clothes that my sister has so generously shared with us, because she has a daughter who's a little bit older than my toddler, and she had a lot of clothes that she shared with us. So as I was going through those, I kind of put together a couple bags of things that I knew that we weren't going to be able to use. Either the season didn't line up, or we just had so many of the same type of item in that size. So we gathered those up. I also gathered up some baby bottles that we had used when our toddler was trying to figure out how to breastfeed. That's kind of a separate story. I ended up pumping exclusively for her for like, I think 3 or 4 months. So she did bottles for a while, and then she successfully transitioned to exclusive breastfeeding. But there is a ministry here in Columbus, Ohio called Value Life, and they collect new and gently used baby items, and they give it to moms who maybe have fewer financial resources to support them through their pregnancies and afterwards. So my son and daughter went with me and helped me to donate a bunch of things. And then we had a bunch of books that we had gone through. Books are like, I don't know, really hard for me to get rid of, but we took them to Half Price Books, and we got some money for that, which always kind of makes it feel worth the time, but we did have to wait a little while, and it was, I don't know, I was sitting there waiting and feeling like maybe this wasn't the best use of my time, but I am glad they're out of the house. So then next, I was going for my weekly non-stress test and checkup. We have a little daughter who passed away at about 38 and a half weeks. She was our 5th child, and because of that, the doctors suspect I had a concealed placental abruption. We don't know for certain, but for whatever reason that she passed away, we're just doing extra monitoring. So I went and had a non-stress test, which basically means they kind of put 2 sensors on your belly. One monitors the baby's heart rate, and then one measures, I think, kind of uterine, intrauterine pressure. So like if you're having contractions. And then they give you this little, almost like game show clicker, like a little button that you hold and you press with your thumb every time you feel the baby moves. And what the doctors are looking for is they want to see the baby's heart rate increasing when there's movement, and then decreasing when there's not movement. And they like to see a certain amount of movement within a certain period of time. And so this particular non-stress test, it was the first time that this has happened with this pregnancy, but I went and I was on the monitors for 30 minutes and our little baby was not moving. And so that was kind of scary and making me sad, because that's almost exactly the same time that our daughter passed away gestationally, like 38 weeks and a couple days. So fortunately, they had me flip to my left side, and they had me eat a strawberry Nutri-Grain bar and drink some water. And after those changes, she started moving and looked really good on the monitors. So I waited another 30 minutes, and she had lots of activity and her heart rate went up. But for a little while, I was thinking, oh, well, I might be having a baby today, which was kind of exciting, but I was obviously worried why she wasn't moving. But it all ended up working out, and I was sent home, and I thought she looked good. So unless I go into labor on my own, I'll be back at the hospital on Wednesday, and I will be induced, which, to be honest, is not my preference. I would really love to go into labor on my own before Wednesday, but I don't know how likely that is. I've been induced 3 times, and I've also gone into labor naturally 3 times, and each of the times that I went into labor naturally, it was sometime in the 39th week. So my induction will be when I'm 39 weeks plus 2 days. So there's a chance, but I don't know if it's a very high chance. My daughter is graduating from high school tomorrow on Sunday, so I'm hoping that I don't go into labor before her graduation, because I really love to be able to, be present for her graduation. And we're going to have a little family-only dinner to celebrate at my mom's house. So my mother-in-law and I are bringing the food for the most part, and my mom is doing all the decorating and hosting, which is so kind, because I was not really sure how I could host a party not knowing when a baby was coming, and she just very graciously offered to have a dinner at her house. So I took her up on it, and my mother-in-law is very graciously and kindly helping with the food. So that feels good. So I do have to actually make the food today. That's on the agenda. But on this particular afternoon, I felt like I really just needed to write out all the things that my husband and I needed to take to the hospital, and then also what the kids needed to pack for when they go stay at my mom's when the baby comes, whenever she ends up coming. And then, purely for fun and just for the joy and the delight of it, I thought, oh, the flowers are starting to bloom. It's mid to late May here in Ohio, and one of the greatest pleasures of my life is to grow flowers and to cut them and arrange them, and then to give them to my friends and family, or just use them to decorate the house. I love having fresh flowers all throughout the house. So these flowers here are columbine, and they come in other varieties, but these do really well. I pretty much neglect them, and I think they self-seed. I don't know that they're perennials. I actually don't know. I should look that up. But since I planted them, they keep coming back, and they don't need tons and tons of sun. They actually do pretty well growing in the shade right close to the foundation of our house. So they're kind of one of the earlier bloomers. And so I cut some of those. Some of them didn't have very long stems, so I wasn't sure whether I'd be able to use them in this vase or not, because this is kind of a taller vase. And then next, I'm so excited because the peonies started blooming. We have several varieties, and I bought them at Costco. They were kind of just like the tubers. I'm not sure if they're tubers or what you call them, but basically kind of looked like really skinny, withered sweet potatoes that had been left to sprout. And I think I planted them in the fall 2 years ago. And last year was the first year that they really produced many blossoms. But this year, it seems like there are tons and tons. There are lots of buds forming. And so I've been waiting patiently. I keep going out and eyeing the buds. So it's important to not cut them too early. So there are kind of 3 stages that it's recommended for you to cut peonies for vases. So there's the marble stage, which actually is not recommended. So that's when the bud is tightly closed, and when you squeeze it, it's pretty firm and hard. And you'll still see a lot of green around the bud. So you can see some of the color of the flower, but there's still a lot of green. So that's actually not a good time to cut it, because those will never blossom for you. An ideal time to cut them is when the peonies are in something called the marshmallow phase, which basically means that they haven't blossomed yet, but when you squeeze them, they're nice and squishy, which I think it's just because the petals have started to open a little bit, so there's a little bit of give, and there's not a lot of green around the bud, but they haven't started to blossom yet, so they're pretty much closed, but they're squishy. So that's a really good time to cut them, because they'll start to open up over the next few days in the vase. And then, of course, you can also start to cut them. You can also cut them when they've started to bloom, like this one here that you see in the front that's started to bloom, but it'll continue to open up and get a lot bigger. But I think my preference is to cut them when they're either in the marshmallow phase or we're in the early blooming phase. What I do is I cut them, and then I strip off any leaves that will be below the water line of the vase. And then I just immediately stick them upside down and put them in a bucket of water. And that helps get rid of any ants that might be hitchhiking on the flowers. That's another reason why I try to prefer cutting the blossoms when they've fully bloomed, because I feel like at that point they've really been inhabited by ants, and you're more likely to bring in a lot of ants to your house, which is not a huge deal, but sometimes I just, don't want to introduce that element of insect life into my home. So next, I thought I would use some time this afternoon to dust everything in my bedroom, to clean the windows, and then to strip the bed, wash the bedding, and then I just tried to like wipe down the bedside tables and the dresser, and in the bathroom I like wiped down the vanity, and then I ran our beloved pet, our robot vacuum. It's a Shark brand. We got it on sale at Costco, and it's like the best thing that we ever could have done. It's so helpful. But anyways, after I give birth, I tend to need to stay in bed for about 3 weeks. Otherwise, my bleeding gets a little bit out of hand. So I thought it would be nice to have a freshly cleaned room to sit in. Otherwise, I'll just have to sit and stare at the dust, and I don't want to do that. So here I'm showing you, this is a marshmallow phase bud right there. And then this one is just starting to blossom. So that's another great time to cut your peonies. And it's also recommended to do it early in the morning. So this is like 7:30. Great time to cut flowers because they haven't wilted. Now these are foxglove. I grew these from seed last year, and they're a 2-year plant, so they'll come back. And then I'm hoping that these ones will self-sow and that I won't have to go through that process of starting the seeds again. Thanks for watching this video. I hope to see you next time.